Is from the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is one of the 18 major Puranas. Om Vani Gunan Kathane Sravanau Kathayam Hastau Chakarma Sumanastava Padayorna Smrityam Sharastava Nivasa Jagat Praname Drishtis Satam Darshane Stubhavattanunam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I pray to the Divine Lord that our speech be always devoted to the chanting of thy name and narrating of thy glories. May our ears be always dedicated to the listening of your wonderful glories and your names. May our hands be always engaged in performing everything as your worship. Our minds be always engaged in meditating on your holy feet, and our heads be always going down to the world, thy abode, and our eyes be always seeing your divine presence in all forms and on everything. Thus, may my whole personality be dedicated in your service. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. Adi Bhautika Shanti. May there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi Daivika Shanti. Let us begin. Last time we were studying second chapter, shloka number 20. That is one of the most important shlokas in the whole of the Bhagavad Gita, because it just says exactly what the Upanishad says. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a verse almost exactly same as this verse, only 2-3 words are different. Verse number 20, it describes the immortal, immutable nature of the self. Earlier we saw the distinction between the real and the unreal when we were studying shloka number 16. Some people brought a very interesting question following that shloka. What is real, what is unreal? We will come back to this topic again and again. The topic runs throughout the Gita. Here in this verse number 20, Sri Krishna describes the ultimate reality, which is present in all of us as the Atman. The same reality present in each being, in every being, animate, inanimate, big and small, in all human beings, animals, plants, things, nature, sun, star, moon, everywhere. There is nothing or nowhere where the Atman is not present. And it is of the nature of pure consciousness, not conditioned consciousness, consciousness related to not any particular object, but pure consciousness without name, form, and without qualities or attributes. That is being described in verse number 20. And that is the substratum. Substratum means foundation of everything, of the whole of creation. So we'll chant it once and then we will go on to verse number 21. I'm doing it because of the importance of this verse. Verse number 20, it will be nice if it can be memorized. Very nice. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. That Atman, we call it Atman when in relation to one particular body. Otherwise, it is called Brahman in the Upanishad. It is called Brahman. There is no difference between the two. The difference is only in our perception. It is just like space. If a space is any kind of container in a glass or a cup or a pot, seems to be limited to that pot. Really, it is not. Space cannot be divided into compartments or limited. When space is present without any container in outer space, outside everything, that is also same space. There is no difference between the space in the cup and space outside the cup. It's all one same space, unbroken, undivided, indivisible space. But because we are seeing the difference, we call it, give it different names. Atman, the pure consciousness present in a particular body, any body is called Atman. And pure consciousness present without any association with any particular body is called Brahman. Both are actually same. Ayamatma Brahma. This Atman is Brahman. Like this, the Aitariya Upanishad says, Mahavakya. Okay. That has no birth, najayate, no birth. Namriyate, it does not die. All other things come and go. They take birth and they die. Kadachit, at any time, it is neither born nor does it die. Nayam bhutva bhavita va nabhuyaha. It was neither absent at any time in the past, will it ever be absent at any time in the future? Always present. Ajaha, it is birthless. Nityaha, it is eternal, not temporary. Shashvataha, permanent. Ayam Puranaha, it is ancient. Sharire hanyamane nahanyate. When the bodies die, the Atman does not die. When the pot is broken, the space is not broken. Space remains as it was, as it always will be. It remains unaffected by whatever happens to the pot. In the same way, to the consciousness within us, Atman within us, it remains always eternal, unchanging, whether there is body or not. That is the immortal nature of the Atman. We are actually that. That is the main point is, why we are discussing Atman? Because our Vedanta Upanishad says that we are actually that Atman. We are not the container, we are not the body and the mind, we are the content, the Atman. We are that. That is, not knowing that is ajnana, ignorance. That whole purpose of Vedanta study is to clear that ignorance and make us realize our true divine nature. This is what Swami Vivekananda said in his famous statement in the Raja Yoga commentary. He said, each soul is potentially divine. The divinity is present within us all, but hidden in potential form, not visible. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal of life is to realize that divinity, do it by one way or the other, any of the yogas. All other things, books and temples and rituals, they are secondary, he said that. So that is the Atman. We are that. Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Atman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, famous Mahavakya. Tattvamasi, Chandogya Upanishad says, you are that Atman. So that to clear that ignorance and realize, experience our true nature as Atman, infinite, eternal, that is the goal of Vedanta study. That's the goal of human life. That's why this verse number 20 is very important. So I just went over it one more time. Now we will leave that topic and go to the next verse, verse number 21. When a person has realized this truth, that he is not the body, he is not the mind, that person also acts freely without being bound by the karma phala. Everybody acts. Nobody can remain without activity even for a short period of time. But the big difference between how jnanis act and how ordinary people act. Jnani means one who knows that he is the self, he is the Atma. Atma Jnani, one who has self-knowledge. Such a person, how do such people act? What is their attitude towards work? And we all, other people also act. How is our attitude towards work? How do we act? What is the big difference is there? That's going to come throughout this Bhagavad Gita, action, karma yoga will come. Here in the verse number 21, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, when a jnani performs any action, he is not bound by the result of the action. He does it freely. That is explained in verse number 21. When we ordinary people perform action, we are bound by the result, karma phala. Bondage is there, limitation is there. Let us see, we'll chant verse number 21. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. I'll read the translation. Your translation may be somewhat different, but you can read your own translation. How can a man, O Arjuna, who knows it as the imperishable, the eternal, the unborn, the undecaying, cause anyone to be slain? Whom can he slay? These are all various arguments that Sri Krishna is giving to persuade Arjuna to understand the importance of action. We should always perform our duty, whatever that duty may be, pleasant or unpleasant. If it is our duty to do, we have to do it. That is the point. So here is giving this reason, this explanation. So let us go back to the first line. Yaha, that person who, yaha means jo. Yaha, enam, this Atman, enam means this Atman. Veda understands or knows. Veda means knows. Veda means knowledge. One who knows, a person who knows. What does he know? 4 things about the Atman are mentioned in the first line. That Atman is Avinashi, Veda Avinashinam. To separate the words, Veda Avinashinam. One who knows the Atman to be Avinashi. Avinashi means indestructible. Nasha means destruction. Avinashi means something that is not destructible, cannot be destroyed. Atman cannot be destroyed. Body can be destroyed. Body will come and go. But Atman is indestructible, always there, unchanging. One who knows the Atman to be indestructible. Yaveda Avinashinam. Nityam. One who knows the Atman is Nityam means eternal, always there. Other things are not always there. First is Atman is indestructible. Second thing is Atman is eternal. Nityam means eternal, always there. Third thing is Ajam. You see the word Ajam hidden between Enam and Avyayam in the second part of this first line. Enam Ajam. Ajam means birthless. Aja comes in the previous verse also. Aja means Janma. Aja means without birth. Birth, it has no beginning. Bodies have births. Even nature has birth. The whole earth was not there some 5-6 billion years ago, and the sun was also not there. They all came into existence at some point in time. They will stay for a long time. They'll go out of existence. But Atman has no beginning, has no end. No enam, ajam, which is birthless. Avyayam, imperishable. It is always there. It does not undergo any change. Everything else undergoes changes. So these 4 things about Atman, one who knows. A person knows these 4 things about Atman. First thing is it is Avinashi, indestructible. Second thing, it is Nityam, eternal. Third thing, it is birthless. Fourth thing, it is imperishable, avyaya. One who knows the truth about Atman. This is the truth about Atman. Four things are given here. More things are there. Saha, such a person, O Partha or Arjuna, such a person knows this truth about Atman. Katham kam ghatayati. How and whom can he slay? There is nobody else to slay. Atman only remains. There is no second entity to slay or to be slain. Hantikam. Whom does he slay? By whom is he slain? Katham sa purusha partha kam ghatayati. How can he destroy anything? How can he slay anything? He cannot. There is no such thing for Atma Jnani. For ordinary people, these distinctions exist. I'm doing something good, I'm doing something bad. We have to have that distinction. Good action, bad action. Otherwise, he'll be doing wrong action. But for a Jnani, his individual will is surrendered to the divine will. Only God's will prevails. Whatever is the will of God, that will happen. If you have questions, let me know. This is a little bit difficult to understand, the second line. For an Atma Jnani, there is no limitation for any action. Whatever he does is the right thing. By nature, by training, he does only what is right, only what is God's will. We take our own decisions depending upon our own intelligence, our own ability to decide good and bad. Sometimes our judgment may be wrong. We may not have the complete information. We may end up doing wrong things. But such a thing does not happen in the case of a Jnani who knows the truth about the Atman. I'll give an example. Are there such people? Yes, there have been such people. There are such people. One example is Swami Brahmananda. Swami Brahmananda also used to be called Raja Maharaja, king. One of the foremost disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. He used to be called the Manasaputra, the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna, Raja Maharaja. He was like that. He would never take any decision on his own. He would only follow what is God's will. How would he know what is God's will? We cannot know what's God's will. We have to use our own judgment to decide whether something is right or wrong, should be done or not. We have no access to God's will because our minds are not there yet, mature yet. He could ascertain God's will. How could he do that one? I give you an example. Supposing somebody he was the president of the order, first president of the Ramakrishna order. When Swami Vivekananda started the Ramakrishna order, he made Raja Maharaj the first president. Swami Vivekananda didn't himself want to become the president. He made Swami Brahmananda the president of the order. As president, he was required to give spiritual initiation, Diksha to people. Sometimes people would come and ask him, Maharaj, please give us Diksha, we want to be initiated. Then Maharaj will ordinarily say, come after some time, 3-4 days a week, we will see. He will not say yes or no. He will not say whether he should give initiation or not, because he had to ascertain God's will. By his own decision, he would not do anything at all. So he would send that person away, asking him to come again after some time. After 4 or 5 days or a week or two, that person would come again, and then he would give the initiation, or he would say, wait for some more time. In the meantime, he would have ascertained Sri Ramakrishna's will. Without talking to Sri Ramakrishna, without ascertaining Sri Ramakrishna's will, Swami Brahmananda would not do any action at all. Brahmajnani, whatever he does has to be right. But what about ordinary people like us? We don't have access to Sri Ramakrishna. Although we like to talk to Sri Ramakrishna, get his advice every day and everything, but we are not there yet. We have to do a lot more spiritual practice before we can reach that stage. So what we should do, we have 3 things we can depend upon to decide whether to do something or not. When we are faced with a decision, whether to do something or not, some action, either in the professional field, at work, or at home, the family, somewhere, something has to be done. So we don't know whether to do it or not, whether to do it today or tomorrow, or not to do it at all, or do it in a different way. We don't have no idea. So where do we go for advice? Sri Krishna says, Sri Krishna gives two sources of advice. First source of advice is from the scriptures. Sri Krishna says, 16 chapter sloka number 24. Chapter 16 sloka 24. Sri Krishna says, if you want to decide whether to do something or not, go to the scriptures and see if it is permitted in the scriptures or not. Last sloka in chapter number 16, 24th verse. There Sri Krishna says, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Vyavastitau Jnatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Kartumiharhasi. Tasmat, because we can't decide ourselves. Therefore, Shastram te pramanam. Scripture is your pramana. Scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata, Upanishad, those are the pramana. Standard. Pramana means standard, guideline. Shastra Vidanam Jnatva, knowing the method prescribed in the Shastras, in the scriptures, Karma Kartumiharhasi, you have to perform your action. One source, Shastra, scriptures. Manusmriti, all those, so many scriptures are there on how to perform some action or whether to perform it or not. Supposing Shastra is not helpful, sometimes this question I have, the work that I have to do is not covered in the scriptures. Then what to do? Then we go to some wise person that is given in the chapter number 3. It will come, I think it's verse number 17. There, Sri Krishna says, consult a wise person who has more experience, more knowledge. Yad yada charite shreshthas tatta devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. Is it 17, Pratibhaji? Verse number 17, chapter 3. Yadyada charite shrestha tatta devetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. Yes. Yes. Same word. Whatever a Shrestha means a wise person does, Yadhyadacharati, what he or she does, that becomes a standard for other people to follow, to emulate. Therefore, consult a wise person, ask that person, him or her, for advice and decide whether to do it or not, or which way to do it. Two sources of information, scriptures and wise people. Supposing that is also not available, then what to do? We have to decide whether to do it or not, or whether to do this way or that way. Then we have to depend upon our own decision, our own buddhi, our own intellect, our own intuition. Then we have to do the action and take responsibility. But for jnanis, this problem does not exist. By nature, whatever they do happens to be the right thing. They cannot do anything wrong. That's how they have become jnanis. By not doing anything wrong for a long time, they have become jnanis, and it has become their nature. And whatever they do becomes a standard, the right thing. They cannot kill anybody. They cannot hurt anybody. But they still do because it is God's will. It is in the case of coming to the story part of Mahabharata, Arjuna was in such a situation where the war was inevitable. They had exhausted everything else to prevent this war. So many negotiations and arbitrations are willing to settle for 5 villages. Nothing worked. And even if Arjuna supposing Arjuna didn't fight at all, would the war have stopped? No, all other army people, Duryodhana side, Kaurava side, they're all already beginning to fight, and fight would go on. People would, destined the vehicle will be killed. That would not have stopped. So Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, one who knows the self, such a person cannot do anything wrong. From that point of view, also, you have to perform your duty right now, persuading him. This whole topic will come later. More clarification will come later. How a jnani remains not bound by the actions he does. In the Karma Yoga chapter, that will come again. So that is 21. Now we go to 22. Now 22 is a very important verse. In this chapter, sloka, second chapter, we have so far seen 3 slokas, which have to be specially studied with great care repeatedly. What is the first one? Sloka number 16. Remember sloka number 16? Swami Surapriyananda gave that, and Devi sent a link to all of you, giving a reference to Swami Surapriyanandaji's lecture on sloka number 16 in chapter 2. You must have received that one. If you have time, please listen to at least a part of that lecture that explains the importance of sloka number 16. What is real, what is unreal? Very important question, somewhat difficult question, but we have to understand that one by repeated study and reflection. Then sloka number 20, just the one studied before. Najayate mriyate, the nature of the Atman, indestructible, eternal nature of the Atman. Then comes sloka number 22, which is somewhat easier than the other 2 slokas. Let us do sloka number 22. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vivaya navani grannati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyai samyati navani dehi. Very beautiful verse. Nice to chant, also very pleasing. And meaning is also easy, not difficult like the other slokas. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grannati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. I read the translation here. You can read your own translation in your book. Just as a man puts on fresh clothes after discarding worn out ones, so does the embodied self, discarding worn out bodies, proceed to take up new ones. Nice, easy sloka to understand. Vasamsi means garments. Vasamsi is a plural, garments. Jirnani vasamsi. Jirna means worn out, used and worn out, unfit to be used anymore. Jirnani vasamsi yatha vihaya. Vihaya means discarding, giving up. Just as giving up worn out, used, torn garments, navani aparani naraha grinnati. Nara means human being. There is no distinction between male, female in Vedanta. All human beings. Naraha aparani navani. Aparani means other garments. Navani means new garments. Grinnati receives, puts on. When this garment becomes worn out, old and torn, this is discarded and a new garment is acquired and put on. In the same way, tatha, third line, tatha, in the same way, jirnani sharirani vihaya. Sharira means this body. This body is called sharira for a special reason. I'll explain that in a moment. Jirnani sharirani vihaya. Jirnani means worn out bodies. When this body becomes worn out, unable to function anymore, it is discarded. Vihaya, discarded. Vihaya. Anyani navani samyati dehi. Navani means new body, new bodies are taken, received, and put on. Body is like a garment. This is very nice sloka. It simply says one message of Vedanta that you are not the body, you are the wearer of the body. Who is wearing this body? Who is inside the body? This is the Atman, the divine presence. That is the real self. And what is the body? It's just a garment. At outermost covering of our personality is the body. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is the theory of the five koshas, five layers. Outermost layer is the physical body, Annamaya kosha, made of food. Annamaya kosha means the layer of our personality made of food. What we eat is what we become, the body, what we eat. Annamaya kosha. Then behind that is the pranamaya kosha, the vital force, which makes all the functions possible. Breathing, digesting food, blood circulation, elimination, walking, speaking, talking, all these functions are made possible because the pranamaya kosha is there, vital force is there. Behind that is the manomaya kosha, the mind, with the thinking, emotion, controlling the sense organ, the mind function, thinking, feeling, etc. Behind that is the Vijnanamaya kosha, intellect. Intellect is finer than the mind. Intellect directs the mind. The mind directs the sense organs. Then behind the Vijnanamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha. Ananda means the blissful sheet, closest to the divine presence within. The Atman is behind the five sheets. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of an onion. An onion is made up of layers, one after layer of one inside the other, one inside the other. If you keep on peeling the layers, what is left? A small thin core is left. That is the Atman. So, the body to which we are so much attached, we identify with the body. I am this. We think we are the body. That is not the truth. It's only the outermost covering of our personality. Then what we are, if we are not the body, we are the Atman, which is hidden deep inside the body and the mind. Mind is also another layer, subtle body. The gross body and the subtle body, mind, and the prana shakti inside, these are all layers of personality. The real personality is the self, Atman, with we are that Atman. That is the Vedantic message. You are the Atman, you are not the body, you are not the mind. So here it says, when the body becomes old, we become unhappy. Nobody becomes happy when they become old. When they are young, they are happy. When old age comes, we become unhappy. Why become old? Old people are unable to do things that they were able to do when they were young. Old people cannot hear properly, cannot see properly, cannot participate in things properly. They are marginalized and sidelined, and they become irrelevant. The world has changed so much, we can't keep up. All those things happen in old age. So we are unhappy in old age. But that old age happens only to the body. And then the worst part is the body altogether ceases to function one day. It doesn't stop completely functioning. Then it is disposed of. So not a happy situation. But the truth is, it's a good thing. Sri Krishna says, when the body dies, it is not necessarily a bad thing. Something that was unable to function became very old and broken. It is no good keeping it in. Put it aside. Get a new one. New body of a newborn baby infant. So nice, all the pink cheeks and everything nice, rosy color, and then you can get a youth, become a young person, young man, woman, and then you can enjoy. So it's good news actually. So anyway, here it says, we are not the body, we are the Atman. The message of verse number 22, in one sentence, the summary of verse number 22 is, you are not the body, you are the indwelling spirit. You are the Atman. That is the truth of Vedanta, and that is mentioned in this verse number 22. So old age and death are not necessarily bad. Something that is become outdated, old and unfit to be used, had to be discarded. There's no point holding on to the body. It has done its part. Let it go. So in the monastic tradition, all monastic tradition, not only Ramakrishna order, any sannyasi, when death comes, other sannyasis don't mourn. They celebrate. Why? That person was struggling with the useless body. Finally, is free from that and has reached this goal of destination of realization, of union with the divine. This body was keeping him, holding him from that one, pulling him down, keeping him down at the earthly level, at the physical level. Now that shackle has been broken, and he's free person. So they do bhandara, celebration. Feast is arranged, all sannyasis are invited, and a big feast is prepared. And chapter number 15 of Gita, everybody chants together before eating, and then the food is given, and every sadhu who comes is given a gift, dhoti, necessary, if possible, a pair of dhotis, and some small dakshina, some money is given. So that person has cast aside this worthless thing, served its purpose. It is no use holding on to it any longer. It has done its purpose. Let it go, like this. So we are not the body, mind, we are the Atman. That's the message of verse number 22. If you have questions on verse number 22, ask me now or later, or send me email or call me. So I'll chant once more verse 22 before leaving it. Very nice verse. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vyagaya navani grinnati naroparani tatha sarirani vihaya jirnani anyani samnyati navani dehi. Very nice verse. Now we go on to the next verse. Verse number 23. 23 and 24, they are actually same meaning, but for the sake of clarity, it is repeated in a different ways. Same thing has been said in different ways. 23, 24, that is easy to understand. In these two verses, the immortal, indestructible nature of the Atman, of the self, is described. Body is mortal, very much perishable, and Atman is imperishable, immortal. Nothing can bring about any change in the Atman. Whereas physical body can be changed by many things. So many different kinds of changes happen in the physical body. Are you familiar with the 6 changes? Shad Vikara. Everything in this universe, everything that is unreal, undergoes 6 kinds of changes. 6 kinds of changes that we have to know. In how many ways our bodies and minds and whole earth, sun also changes. How does it change? In 6 different ways it changes. Bodies also change. All bodies change. If you want to know what the 6 different ways in which everything changes, here are the 6 changes. If you like, you can make a note of this one. First change is everything comes into existence. Janma. First is Janma. Janma means birth. Nothing was there in the beginning. Everything came into existence at some point. So that at some point something comes into existence called Janma. It takes birth. It begins its existence. The good example is our body. This body was not always there. It was born on what you call the date of birth. Before that, it was in a different form, not in this form. It was not there. First change is Janma. Second change is Vriddhi. Vriddhi means growth, enhancement, growth. Vriddhi means growth. Janma, Vriddhi, everything grows. Like a baby is born, very small infant. Then rapidly it grows. 6 months, 3 months, 6 days, take the weight every few now and then they take the weight. Baby has gained weight. Baby has gained 2 pounds. Like this, we are happy. Baby grows. Janma vriddhi, birth and growth. Third thing is asti. Asti. Asti means exist for some time. Everything exists for some time, finite duration of time. Some things exist for a short time. Some things exist for a long time. Some animals live for a long time. Elephants live for 60, 70, 80 years also. Crocodiles live for a very long time. For a long time. Tortoises and crocodiles. People live for 80, 90, maybe 95, 100 years. Some people live. And that's all. So everything exists for some time. Janma, vriddhi, asti. Astitva, existence. 3. Then fourth is parinama. Parinamate. Parinama means changes begin to be noticed. Changes have been happening, but changes can be noticed. Parinama means transformation. In our bodies, we can see when you're born, small infant, then it becomes a toddler, then becomes a child preteen, and then becomes a teenager, then becomes a youth, and then changes are happening. You can see the boy or child, girl growing nicely. The parents are happy when the children are tall, like this. Janma, vriddhi, asti, astitva, parinama, parinamate. Changes happen. Then fifth is sadness, apakshiyate, decay sets in, degeneration. Fifth change is degeneration, apakshiyate. You know, this hair becomes gray or it goes away at all, at least something is there. So some people, it is not there, it becomes gray. And all the other artificial means of putting color and everything, it does not, a little bit difference, only temporary difference it makes. But changes will happen. Degeneration, apakshiyate. Fifth stage is apakshaya. Apakshaya means degeneration sets. Everything, even sun, degenerates. Then what happened? Last one is nashyati. Nasha, goes out of existence. The sixth thing, changes happen to everything you can think of. There's not one thing which is free from these six changes. The whole galaxy was not there in the beginning. Then it came into existence. It became, it is expanding, expanding, expanding. Then it degenerates. Galaxy degenerate, and then they go out of existence. They go either merge in a black hole or merge into another galaxy, or they go out of existence. It's true of everything, starting from the atom to the galaxy, all living beings, non-living beings, everything has to go through these changes, Vedanta says. So here, in verse number 23, 24, Atman is the only thing that does not undergo any change, changeless, avikarya. You have seen that before, it will come again. The only thing that does not undergo any of these six changes, neither takes birth nor dies, nor grows nor decays, always remains the same, unchanging, eternal, infinite. That is Atman. That indestructible, unchangeable nature of the Atman is being described in these two verses 23 and 24. Same thing in two different ways. So let us do 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kledayantyaapo, nashoshayati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kledayantyaapo, nashoshayati marutaha. I'll read the translation. Weapons do not cut it. Fire does not burn it, neither does water wet it, nor does the wind dry it. The Atman cannot be altered or changed by anything in any way. Whereas all other things, including the body, they are subject to all these changes. If there is fire, the body burns. If there is water, the body becomes wet. If there is air, the body is become dry, or it can be blown away also. All these changes can happen to the body and all other bodies, except the Atman. Accepting the Atman, nothing else is stable. Everything is subject to change. It is said that many millions and millions of years ago, there was no moon. So we have this nice, beautiful moon circling around the earth. It was not there. Only earth was there. Then some other celestial object came, huge object, like maybe Jupiter or something like that, of that magnitude, came and hit the earth with a great force. And because of that impact, some chunk of the earth got separated, dust and everything, small particles. And that chunk of the separated from the earth, that became the moon. That's the theory. Astronomy has all these theories, how the moon came into existence. So even changes can happen at that astronomical level also. Planets also change, come and go into existence, out of existence. But Atman, in no way can it be changed. Nayanam chindanti shastrani. Shastra means weapons. Weapons cannot cut it. You can take any fruit or vegetable and cut it with a knife. You can't do that to the Atman. You can cut the body also. Nothing can be done to the Atman. Nayanam chindanti shastrani. Weapons do not cut the Atman. Nayanam dagati pavak. Na enam. Nayanam means na enam, not this. Enam atmanam pavakaha na dahati. Pavaka means fire. Fire does not burn the Atman. Fire burns everything else. Nacha enam kledayantyapa. Nacha enam. Enam means this, Atman. Apaha means water. The word apa is always used in plural in Sanskrit. The word water is always plural in Sanskrit. Apaha means waters. Water does not wet it. Naklediyanti. We can wet this cloth if you put it in water, but if you put the Atman in water, you can't put in Atman in water anyhow because it's not a limited thing and it cannot be wet by water. Nashoshayati marutaha. Shoshanam means drying up. Shoshanam is drying up. Maruta means wind. Wind cannot dry that one. Then, that's sloka number 23. Weapons do not cut it. Fire does not burn it. Neither does water wet it, nor does wind dry it. What is being described? Atman is being described. Our true self, which is pure consciousness, that's what we truly are. That is indestructible. Cannot be transformed or changed in any way by any force. Whereas all matter, all other unreal things are subject to 6 kinds of changes that we saw before. The same idea is explained in verse number 24. Almost exactly same thing, put in different words. So verse number 24. Achedyoyamadahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nityas sarvagatasthano achaloyam sanatanaha. Achedya ayam. You see the English letter, yes, there in your Sanskrit text. When in your Sanskrit text, in your book, you see the word English letter, yes, somewhere 2-3 places in this sloka. What does that yes mean? The sound a is hidden. is avagraha. A sound a is hidden there. Achedyaha I am means this Atman. I am means this Atman. Achedya cannot be cut. Chedana means cutting. Cannot cut it with a knife. Same thing that was said in the previous verse. Achedya I am. The Atman cannot be cut into pieces. Adahyaha I am. Dahana means burning. Adahya means something cannot be burned. Atman cannot be burned by fire. Atman cannot be cut by a knife. Atman cannot be burned by fire. No, body can be done all these things. All these things can happen to the body. Akledyaha. Akledyaha means it cannot be made wet by water. Ashoshya cannot be dried by air or wind. Nityaha, it is always, Nitya came earlier. Nitya, sir, Nitya, eternal, always present. What is not always present? All this is showing the distinction between the real and the unreal, which we studied in chapter, in verse number 16. All these verses are telling us the difference between real and the unreal. What is real? Atman. Atman is unchanging. Atman is eternal. It cannot be cut by anything, cannot be made wet, it cannot be dried, it cannot be burned. Nothing can be done to the Atman. And it is always there. Does not come into existence, does not go out of existence, always present. These are all the characteristics of the self, Atman, which we are. That we have to realize. Realize means we have to experience. We are only experiencing the body now, which is not the truth. Body comes and goes. We are not that one. No need to worry about it too much. Take care of it, keep it in functioning condition nicely, but no more. Sarva Nityaha, eternal, Sarvagataha, all pervasive. This is a very interesting feature. As pure consciousness, Atman is present everywhere, not limited to any one particular object or container. Sarvagata, there was a Swamiji, his name was Sarvagata Anandji in Boston. I spoke about him last time. All pervasive. Sarvagata means everywhere it is present. In all objects, inside objects, outside objects, it is present. How? Like the example, like an ocean. If you take an ocean, which is a vast expanse of water, and so many objects are there in the inside the ocean. If you take those objects, the water is inside the object, outside the object. Everywhere is all pervasive. Sarvagata, all pervasive. Sthanuhu means stable, not changing, stable. Stable like an anvil. If you have seen a blacksmith shop, there is an anvil there. Anvil is a huge iron block, very heavy, stable, that is used as a base. On the anvil, the workpiece is kept and a very hot hammer. It is made very hot, and with a hammer it is struck to give the shape that is required. So that stable thing which does not change serves as the platform for all the action. That is called sthanu, is called stable. Atman is stable like that. Does not change at all. Other things will change. Sthanu, stable. Achalaha, immovable. If it is present everywhere, how can it move? Something can move from one place to another place if it is present in one place and not in the other place. We can move from this room to that room, I can go. I can downstairs to upstairs, I can go. Because I'm not there everywhere. I'm only here, I'm not upstairs now. I'm only in this room, not in the next room. So I can move. Movement is possible when something is present in one place and not in every place. If something is present in every place, all pervasive, sarvagata, if it is always pervasive, then where do you move from where? They're everywhere. There's no question of movement. They're always everywhere present. There is no question of movement. Achala means immovable. I am Sanatana. All these things came before also. Repetition is there. Sanatana means always everlasting. Always present. It does not go out of existence at any time. Everything else goes out of existence. Some things stay for a very long time. Some things stay for a short time and then they go out of existence. But Atman always is in existence. Never came into existence. It was always there, but not at any particular point in time. never goes out of existence, it will always be there. That is the distinction between the real and the unreal. All these shlokas here that we studied today, those are describing the distinction between the real and the unreal that began with this verse number 16. Sat and Asat. So that distinction between real and unreal, real means Atman, self. Unreal means all the whole world, whole universe, everything in the universe. What is the distinction? These are all the distinction, differences are being described. This description of the difference is called, there is one word for that one in Vedanta, which is that one. What is the word for the difference between the real and the unreal? There is one word with which many of you are familiar, all of you must be familiar, which says the distinction between real and the unreal. Viveka. Viveka Chudamani, you must have heard the name of the book Viveka Chudamani. That whole book written by Shankaracharya describes the distinction between real and the unreal. That is the most important thing in Vedanta. The first thing we have to know in Vedanta is Viveka. What is real, what is unreal? What is the difference between real and the unreal? These are all the differences. Real is always there, unreal is not always there. Real is unchanging, unreal is changing. All real is unlimited, eternal, infinite. Unreal is limited, temporary, and finite. Like this, we saw differences. All these are differences between the real and the unreal. So now we have done shloka number 24. Now it's almost time. If you like, we can have 2-3 minutes for questions and answers. If you have any questions, this will be time to unmute. Sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from diseases of all kinds, may all realize what is noble and auspicious, may no one be subject to misery. Om, peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, may there be peace everywhere in nature. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.